and welcome to Indian Masterminds. My name is Muskan Khandilwal, and today we have with us a very special guest, and she is IPS Officer Isha Singh, a 2021 batch officer and a former lawyer as well. And today we are going to discuss about her UPSC successful journey and her career in law. So welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Muskan, for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
You are a law graduate and a former lawyer at Bombay High Court. So why civil services?
That's very interesting because I completed my graduation from National Law School, Bangalore. And while I was there, I developed a deep interest in litigation as well. I think the Constitution and the courts are an amazing way of providing justice. But from a very young age, I think I've had a natural inclination towards justice, particularly social justice. And my father was an IPS officer. And I was very young. He quit when I was 9 years old. But I still remember as a young child the kind of work he used to do, because when both your parents are bureaucrats, you're half the time in someone's office only. Either you're in your father's office or your mother's office, because it's just so busy, for them. So I've just sat with my father, seen the way he worked, and I've also heard when I grew older, I read about the cases that he did while he was in the CBI. His investigation was incredible, the legal skills that he gained while he was a police officer. And even when he was posted in the State Reserve Police Force, he did some incredible work for the Maharashtra police and made that entire compound revenue generating, so that there was additional funds for the constables, for the personnel, to improve their quality of life, police infrastructure. And I think when he quit, I felt that because he was a very honest and upright officer, and he didn't necessarily go down that route where he would grant favors or ask for favors. He was very upright, and perhaps he had to pay a price for that. But I do remember thinking at the age of 9 also, because I was the first person. My mother was in Lucknow that time, and we were in Bombay, my father and I. And my father came and said, "Isha, I've quit." And I remember thinking even then that that's not fair, he was incredible. Even a 9-year-old me could understand that. And I felt then that no matter what happens, the Indian civil services needs people who are passionate, people who are upright, people who are there to just serve the nation, serve the people. And it doesn't matter whether you win or lose in this endeavor, but it's important to keep trying and to really serve the nation. So that's why I decided to join the civil services, even though I really liked litigation as well.
So what kind of help you got from your father during your preparation days? Any experience if you could share?
I find this very funny because my father quit, and he quit to become a lawyer, and he really wanted me to be a lawyer. He thought my calling was law, and yes, I think the legal fraternity was really kind to me in terms of the little time that I did practice. But so, every day he would be like, "Isha, are you sure about this? I don't think you should do this. You will make a fantastic lawyer." So obviously, I think the opportunity cost is something my father kept rubbing in my face. But having said that, he's still a very doting father. So I did my preparation from Bombay. I didn't go to Delhi. So all the printouts, when you're studying for so many hours, sometimes you don't want digital, you want paper, or you need your tests. My father painstakingly would print all of the Vision IAS materials, the past year question papers, the test papers. So I think that was one thing my dad did. Another thing that he did, which I think is massive moral support, is he would make me really good breakfast and chai every single morning without fail. So, when the entire day, you're not really talking to your friends and you don't have anything to look forward to. But my father is a fantastic cook. I mean, one of the best that I have ever come across. So his breakfast and chai was something that really got me through the preparation.
That's good to hear. So, in many of your interviews, you said that your parents are your pillar of strength. So, what was their reaction when they first saw you in khaki?
They were really overwhelmed. My mother was in tears, and it is like life coming full circle, right? Because my mother was also born to a cop. Like my nana was a police officer, my father was a police officer, and then to have your daughter also as a police officer, I think it was an emotional moment for my parents. I feel really excited because in our house we have a photo of nana, then my father, and I'm quite excited in the uniform, and I'm quite excited to be the third person there. The thing with my parents, though, if I can tell you what makes them my pillar of strength, is that something both of them have always said is don't let anything ever define you. So even when I don that khaki, I recognize that I'm there to serve the khaki. That khaki is an opportunity for me to serve, but not for it. Uh, for me to power trip on it or anything like that. So I think that's the beauty that I derive from my parents, because they've always told us to have values, to be true to yourself, to be a human being first. And I think that's why they are my pillar of strength, because the kind of love and values they've given us in terms of just to to be free to be who we are, I think that's very rare. Like not many people get to experience that kind of acceptance, so I'm really grateful for that reason.
Yeah. So, coming to your career in law. So, while you were making your career in law, what was that one case that gave you the breakthrough? If you could please share.
So, while preparing, I also started practicing in the Bombay High Court, and it was really interesting because I think पढ़ाई थोड़ी boring हो जाती है बैठ के कोई, it's very passive. But once you come into the field, you're arguing every day, you're reading, and you yourself find yourself pouring yourself into books for hours and hours and hours. So I got into social justice a lot. So I worked on cases of sexual harassment, worked on cases of internet freedom. In fact, surprisingly, police excesses. I think there was one fantastic bail order that we got from the Bombay High Court under Article 226, where our client was granted interim bail. I think that was a very landmark decision. But I have to say that the one case that really not only defined my short legal career but also changed who I am as a person was representing the widows of deceased manual scavengers in the Bombay High Court. So, Maharashtra, in spite of being the richest state in the country and Bombay being the richest city in the country, in fact, in the world, I would say one of the richest, we still continue with the practice of manual scavenging, which means that people, and mostly these people are Dalits, or they are vulnerable migrants, or really poor people who go down into manholes which have toxic noxious gases, and they go in and they clean the sewer with their hands, and often they die because one, that's absolutely unsafe. There are the gases choke them to death. In fact, even the Supreme Court said that no country sends their people to gas chambers to die. And when we filed an RTI with the BMC asking how many deaths had taken place, the BMC said that no deaths had taken place. And which was shocking, right? Because every day you're reading in the papers that another manual scavenger died cleaning a septic tank, a manhole, and all these deaths were somehow invisibilized because everybody kept saying nobody's dying. The official authorities said nobody's dying, and the truth was so many people were dying. And as per the law, the Supreme Court decision in Safai Karamchari Andolan versus Union of India, every family is entitled to 10 lakh compensation along with a host of rehabilitation measures that are enshrined in the Prohibition of Employment of Manual Scavengers Act 2013. Now, in spite of all these laws in place, the implementation was very poor. So when we read about these three widows whose husbands died in cleaning a septic tank in a private housing society in Govandi, we decided we had to change. Like, we had to change this practice. This was not okay. So we landed up at the house of the widows, and the widows, we asked them if they were willing to stand with us, if they were willing to take this battle to the courts. And I think, like, Vimla, Neeta, and Bani, what courageous women, women who, Vimla and Bani had never stepped out of their house before. Bani had a 4-week-old son. She was feeding that 4-week-old son. She was a migrant from Bengal, didn't know Marathi, Hindi. She was in shock, and her husband went down that septic tank for that extra $1,000 he could earn, so that he could throw a party for his, newborn son. And I think it was so tragic, but they still showed so much courage. And for 2 years, we agitated in court. These widows would come to court, and it was a very convoluted process. I think the legal system needs to be more friendly towards vulnerable sections, and especially people who are poor. But nonetheless, we persevered, and we got a fantastic order from the Bombay High Court, where for the first time in the history of Maharashtra, 10 lakh compensation was paid to the widows, 10 lakh each. The other thing that the Bombay High Court held, the state kept saying that because the death was taking place in a private housing society, the state was not responsible to pay compensation. But we argued that in cases like manual scavenging, which is banned as per Article 17 of the Constitution and the 2013 Act, ultimately the responsibility is on the state to enforce such a ban. The term is the state is strictly liable for the same. And the Bombay High Court accepted this argument and struck down a government resolution and said that no, the state is strictly liable to pay this compensation, and later they can claim it from the private entities. So this is what made the decision really landmark. And as I was arguing, I think two things that really came to my mind. I was like, oh my god, Ambedkar was so cool, right? Like, we don't talk about it enough, but B.R. Ambedkar completely changed the Indian social order through the constitution by allowing everyone to have equal rights. And be it lawyers, be it bureaucrats, the duty is on us to translate these rights into reality. Because I felt like whenever I went to the district collector or the police, they were not responsive. I was a lawyer then. They just kept postponing the compensation. So it was only through the courts that we got justice. And the other thing is, when we came out, right, the widows were crying. Now, in the 2 years, the lead petitioner Vimla would tell me, ईशा मैम, हम जानते हैं ये सिस्टम हम जैसे लोग के लिए काम नहीं करता, right? And I used to feel something, and we was like, no, that's not true, and we need to break this myth. So when we came out, and all three of them were crying, and Bani, the one with the 4-week-old son, she barely speaks because she doesn't know much of the language Hindi or Marathi, but she was like, आज हमने देख लिया, अगर वकील चाहे तो कुछ भी हो सकता है. And I thought that was such a powerful statement. It really changed who I am, because I responded saying that's not true. Agar aap chahe to kuch bhi ho sakta hai. So it's ultimately, it was about, individual initiative, citizen engagement. I think all of that really defined my legal career.
Okay, so with this, I would like to say thank you so much, ma'am. It was a very insightful discussion with you on various topics. We hope that this interview will help the aspirants preparing for the service. And thank you so much for giving your time.
Thank you so much, Muskan. It was lovely speaking to you.